Hello. The bond between a mother and her children is perhaps the most sacred relationship in the world. But does this sacred bond always exist in a family? Today's case revolves around a single mother named Linda, who worked 2 jobs every day from early morning until late at night to support her 3 children. She persevered daily, hoping only that her children would grow up to be good citizens, which would be enough to make her content. Yet, fate had a cruel twist, and she met a tragic end. Let's delve into how this real-life case shocked all of Canada and uncover the motives behind the crime. Mississauga, located in Ontario, Canada, is the 3rd largest city in the province, with a population exceeding 700,000 according to the 2021 census. It is a densely populated area. On the map, the city's location is quite notable. Situated directly across from New York State, separated only by Lake Ontario. Our case today unfolded here. On the night of January 18th, 2013, at 10 p.m., a police station in Mississauga received a call. The officer on duty heard a girl crying, desperately reporting that her mother had suffered an accident while bathing and was now motionless in the bathtub. Police arrived swiftly and found a woman on the 2nd floor bathroom who had no pulse. Despite their efforts at resuscitation, it was too late. She had been dead for some time. Investigations revealed the victim was Linda Anderson, a single mother living with her 3 children. The caller was her 2 daughters, Sandra, 16, and Beth, 15. Sandra and Beth explained that around 6 p.m., they went out to eat with 2 friends. When they returned, they saw their mother drinking and preparing to bathe. By 10:30 p.m., when they couldn't find their mother, they went upstairs and were horrified to find her lifeless in the bathtub and immediately called for help. The sight of the grieving sisters deeply moved the officers, who sympathized with their loss. Without a father's love and now losing their mother, the future for these children seemed uncertain. The police then took the sisters to their aunt's house for further investigation. Next, the police conducted a thorough examination of the house. They found no signs of forced entry or theft. The scene indicated Linda had died while bathing, with no signs of a struggle or altercation. Everything suggested a possible alcohol-related drowning accident. However, the police considered the case suspicious and required further investigation. Forensic experts found no unusual signs on Linda's body, no injuries or fingerprints from an intruder. However, the blood alcohol concentration was extremely high, at 400 milligrams per 100 milliliters, 5 times the legal limit, which could be fatal. Additionally, investigators discovered 2 glasses of premium vodka next to the bathtub. Based on the clues provided by Linda's daughters, police learned that Linda had a severe alcohol addiction and drank almost daily. Could it be that she had been drunk, fell into the bathtub, and drowned, as initially suspected? Linda Anderson was born in 1959 in Podlaski, Poland. After growing up, she moved to Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, and was content with her life there. Her happiness increased when she met her dream husband, Carlo. In 1987, Linda gave birth to her first daughter, Sandra, and a year later, to her second daughter, Beth. To outsiders, their family seemed happy and enviable, and Linda was proud of her fulfilling marriage. However, their happiness was shattered by an unexpected event, whether due to a fascination with the outside world or dissatisfaction with family life. Carlo abandoned Linda and their 2 daughters. After the divorce, he ceased financial support, leaving Linda to bear all the financial and parental responsibilities. The pressure on Linda was immense, as she had to work to support her family and care for her 2 daughters. Even someone as optimistic as Linda found her world turned upside down, unable to maintain her previous joy. In her despair, Linda turned to alcohol for solace. However, drinking to forget only compounded her troubles. Linda's consumption increased, but her anxieties and sorrows persisted. When intoxicated, she would often yell at her children. Due to Sandra and Beth's young age, they couldn't help their mother with the family's issues. After years of living in a hostile and tense environment, Linda felt the need for a male presence in the household and started a relationship with a new man named Carabin. After a brief courtship, Linda quickly decided to remarry Carabin, hoping he could bring stability and happiness to the family. Initially, the family seemed more stable. Linda and Carabin had a son named Robert. However, Carabin's true nature soon emerged. He was not only quick to anger, but also had sinister intentions towards Linda's daughters. The two girls silently endured their stepfather's abuse, only discreetly informing a nearby church pastor. Although the pastor recognized the severity of the situation, he did not report it to the police, but instead advised Sandra to speak out if Carabin continued his abusive behavior. This was not an effective solution, as evidenced by the ongoing abuse. It wasn't until 2001 that Carabin's child abuse was exposed, leading to his conviction and removal from Linda's family. Two broken marriages deeply scarred Linda. She had to single-handedly care for her 3 children, with Sandra and Beth able to assist with some household tasks. To support her family of 4, Linda took on multiple jobs, facing enormous stress. Meanwhile, her alcoholism worsened, and she was often drunk when she returned home. Moreover, Linda spent a large portion of her income on alcohol. Neighbors and friends of Linda were well aware of her struggle with alcoholism. After the police interviewed several people, a clearer picture began to emerge. When Linda passed away, 2 vodka glasses were found on the bathroom cabinet. The forensic examination concluded that her death was accidental. Aside from the high blood alcohol level, no other abnormalities were detected, considering her long-standing drinking habit and the testimonies of her 2 daughters. The police concluded it was merely an alcohol-related accident. Thus, the case was closed. Linda had taken out a life insurance policy, so the compensation was to be divided among her 3 children. Sandra and Beth received a total of $133,000, while 3-year-old Robert got $67,000. At the time of the incident, Sandra was only 16 and Beth 15, so their aunt became their legal guardian. The aunt was very sympathetic to their situation and took good care of them. Robert was cared for by another relative of Linda. The case gradually faded from public memory, but no one anticipated that 11 months later, a key figure would bring the case back into the spotlight, causing even more uproar across Canada. In December 2003, a person claiming to be Sandra's friend reported to the police that he was holding a major secret. He stated that Linda's death was not an accident as concluded, but was orchestrated by Sandra and Beth. This revelation shocked the police. If true, everyone had been deceived by the 2 sisters. Although it was hard to believe, given that no prior abnormalities were noted, the young man claimed this information came directly from Sandra. Consequently, the police decided to conduct a covert investigation. They planned to have the young man monitor Sandra and Beth, installing recording equipment in his car. Over the next month, he frequently took the sisters out, exploiting their habit of drug use. He coaxed them into discussing details about their plan to harm Linda. The sisters, unguarded and even boastful, not only revealed intricate details about the crime, but also expressed pride in having successfully deceived the police, living comfortably with the insurance money. The police reviewed all recordings and audio from the past month and were appalled by the sisters' cruel actions. The recordings revealed the step-by-step execution of their crime. Sandra and Beth despised Linda's alcoholism, especially since she spent most of her income on alcohol, leaving them with no money for personal expenses. They longed for a carefree life and knew Linda had a life insurance policy worth $200,000. If their mother died, they would inherit $130,000. They even planned how they would spend the insurance money. First, a European vacation, then buying a small house there and growing cannabis in the garden. The idea of killing their mother to claim the insurance money began to form. Sandra and Beth researched methods of murder online, trying to devise a perfect crime to evade police detection. They considered guns, knives, and drowning. Eventually, they decided to exploit Linda's alcoholism to execute their plan. Sandra and Beth learned that a high dose of Tylenol combined with alcohol could severely damage the liver and heart. Their plan was to get their mother drunk, force her to ingest a large amount of Tylenol, then lure her into a bathtub filled with water under the pretext of resting, and wait for her to die so they could claim the insurance money. On January 21st, 2014, based on the recordings, the police directly arrested Sandra and Beth. Both were minors at the time, so they were detained in a juvenile detention center during the investigation. To prevent them from colluding to provide a consistent false statement, they were kept in separate cells. However, the covert recordings and surveillance footage could not directly charge the sisters. If they argued that their statements were mere bravado, the police would be unable to act. Thus, more evidence was needed to ensure the accused could not deny the heinous crime they committed against their mother. In their initial interrogation, both sisters vehemently denied the charges, claiming they had an airtight alibi as they were dining with friends at a restaurant from 6 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. on the night of the incident. This was confirmed by their friends and the restaurant surveillance cameras. However, inconsistencies remained. Fortunately, the police had meticulously recorded details from the time of the incident, including the water temperature and depth in the bathtub, which was icy cold. Combined with forensic examination, experts suggested Linda's time of death might have been before 6 p.m., disproving Sandra and Beth's alibi. Additionally, their computer contained extensive search history related to Tylenol and drug mixing. In their online chats with friends, they also discussed ways to remove their mother and solicited assistance. Forensic analysis found high levels of codeine in Linda's system, 3 times the safe dose, adding to the crucial evidence. The police were even more incensed to discover that 3 of Beth's classmates knew about the crime, one of whom not only failed to report it, but also participated in the plan, providing 5 Tylenol pills and advising them to hold Linda's head underwater for at least 4 minutes. It was chilling to see a minor involved in such a scheme. He was also arrested. Remarkably, after Linda's death, the sisters, who had initially avoided suspicion, flaunted their crime to friends, bragging about how they had perfectly removed their mother without detection. After receiving the insurance money, they indulged in a hedonistic lifestyle, buying clothes and jewelry, showing no sign of mourning their mother's death. This behavior shocked those around them. Ultimately, based on all the evidence, the prosecution charged Sandra and Beth with murder, specifically plotting to kill their mother and evade legal consequences. The case was extremely high profile, stirring not only the local community, but all of Canada. Many found it hard to believe that minors could commit such a brutal act. However, for the investigators, after confirming every detail, there was no sympathy left, as their duty was to convict the perpetrators of such heinous crimes. The trial officially began in November 2005. Sandra and Beth continued to deny their guilt. After some time, the eldest sister Sandra finally could not bear it any longer and confessed, followed by Beth. They detailed the entire process of the crime as previously described, getting their mother drunk, administering drugs, and finally holding her head underwater in the bathtub until she stopped moving, then quickly creating an alibi. The motive for these cruel sisters was their desire to live a luxurious life abroad. When the trial concluded, Judge Bruce remarked that Linda had single-handedly supported a family of 4, working 2 jobs daily and coming home exhausted, only able to use alcohol to escape her fatigue. He could not understand why the 2 daughters Linda had worked so hard to raise would want to poison their own mother. Sandra and Beth had meticulously planned and prepared for their crime, almost succeeding. Fortunately, the truth was uncovered, and justice was served. In June 2006, after over 6 months of trial, the court finally convicted Sandra and Beth of first-degree murder, although they were originally facing life sentences, because they were both under 18 at the time of the crime. According to the Canadian Youth Justice Act, they were treated as juvenile offenders with a maximum sentence of 10 years. In reality, they would serve about 6 years before being transferred to a more lenient youth detention center. Many courts planned to recover the insurance compensation Sandra and Beth had received, but by the time of their arrest, the sisters had only $48.487 left. which was transferred to Linda's youngest son, Robert. Additionally, the male friend who helped the sisters plan the crime and provided 5 Tylenol pills was sentenced to 8 months in prison. After confessing, Sandra agreed to a media interview, stating that since she was 12, she had been bullied by her mother and her mother's boyfriend, with no one to help her escape that nightmare. She and Beth lived in very difficult circumstances, with their mother's alcoholism leaving them without any hope. Thus, their hatred gradually blinded them. Sandra also mentioned that she now deeply regrets her actions. Because Sandra and Beth were minors at the time of the crime and the trial, their identities were protected under Canadian law. As a result, the video uses pseudonyms. Currently, the sisters have been released, and due to the confidentiality of their identities, no one knows their current lives in detail. However, according to public information, Sandra continued her studies after her release, graduated from university, and later married. Beth not only got married and had children, but also pursued a law degree and became a lawyer. Many people believe that since Sandra and Beth were still immature when they committed the crime, society should give them a chance. Of course, their sentences have sparked much debate in the legal community. Some argue that juvenile offenders in Canada face only a maximum of 6 years in prison before being released, which is too lenient and could negatively impact the development of young people's moral awareness. They call for reforms to Canadian youth justice laws to impose stricter penalties. However, others believe that such young offenders should be given a second chance and not be overly harshly punished. Ultimately, despite widespread outrage, the legal system remains unchanged. The issue of sentencing juvenile offenders is controversial not only in Canada, but also elsewhere. For example, in Vietnam, the case of Le Van Leyen, who committed a brutal massacre of a gold shop family, shocked the nation. He killed the gold shop owners and their 18-year-old child, seriously injuring the family's 8-year-old daughter. The case attracted public attention not only for its brutality, but also because the perpetrator was just 54 days short of turning 18. According to Vietnamese law at the time, he faced a maximum of 18 years in prison, the highest sentence for someone under 18. This led to intense public debate over legal reforms, as many felt the punishment was too lenient compared to his actions. While he had the chance to live and correct his mistakes, the 3 lives he took could not be restored, and the surviving child would endure lifelong psychological trauma. Returning to the Linda case, it's crucial to acknowledge Sandra and Beth's traumatic childhood. This contributed to their hatred of their mother, greed for money, and indifference to their crimes. What is even more chilling is that after committing the crime, the sisters showed no remorse and even bragged to friends about their perfect crime. Cases like this show that when children lack proper parental guidance and education, they can go astray, develop negative traits, and even fall into the depths of criminality. That concludes today's video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and see you in the next video.